And I'm going to be answering questions too. So Amanda, she'll be so kind to check the chat for any questions, and I'll try to check the chat as much as I can as well as we go over today's plan. So today I will talk about recruiting presenters or performers and sharing kind of a list of qualities to look for when you're recruiting a presenter or a performer. I'll also talk about get it in writing. Get a document, a contract, or a program agreement in writing. And we'll talk about the benefits of having a contract or a program agreement. I'll also share a program checklist, and that's just covering your bases and where you're checking the list to make sure you have everything in place to make your program a success. And we will also cover what do you do if a presenter or a performer is a no-show or if they're unprepared. I put together some just round robin of easy programs for groups of all ages and sizes. I'll also share some after program best practices, so just some tips to complete after your program is over, and I'll have some parting reminders. So here we go. So we're going to talk about recruiting presenters or performers. And really, this is just kind of uh, best practices, really. It's best practices of what to look for when looking for a presenter or a performer. Um, so content relevance. When you go to look at a presenter or a performer, does their content or their delivery, does it fit the group that you're serving? Whether it's kids, tweens, teens, all ages, etc. Is their program inclusive and respectful? We want to make sure that if you are having a presenter or a performer, you want to make sure their program is inclusive, that it includes everyone, and that they're respectful of your staff, the group that you're serving. We just want them to make sure that they are respectful. Case in point, I had a presenter at a previous library that I worked at. The library had a basketball player from the Harlem Globetrotters. They came in, which was wonderful. They came in and read a book to the children. They were going to read a book, and they were going to talk about basketball and what it's like to be a Harlem Globetrotter and get kids interested in basketball and show some basketball moves. The presenter, the basketball player, he read The Cat in the Hat in front of the kids. The kids are liking it. The staff are enjoying his reading. We're all having a good time. And after he closed the book, the presenter said, "Well, now that junk is out done and out the way," he said that in front of kids, in front of parents. I was mortified. Like the white just drained in my face. Um, I just I was mortified. And it just was so disrespectful to you read a book, but you called it junk. And it was just the most mortifying thing I'd ever seen. And that told me that we needed, as a staff, to communicate to a presenter what our expectations are. So really make sure that program that you're hosting at your library, is it respectful? Is it inclusive of your audience? And engagement level. Check to see if the presenter or performer can hold the attention of youth and interact with them effectively. I've seen wonderful presenters and singers, and they can just demand the attention of the room. It's amazing. So really get a feel for that engagement level with your presenter or performer. Check to see if there's hands-on activities or interactive elements in their presentation that would encourage audience participation. And their track record. Check to see, have they presented in similar settings, such as other libraries or schools or camps. And most importantly, before you even go to look at a presenter or a performer, look at your library's mission. Does the program that you want to book, does that program support the library's mission or vision? Some other best practices when looking at recruiting a presenter or performer. Budget friendly. Let's face it, budgets are tight. Your budgets are tight. Everyone's budget is tight. Just check to see, is their fee within your budget? Can you work something out with that presenter? Can they knock down the cost? Or can you book with another library to lower the cost? And what's included in that, in their presentation for packaging for budget? Are there mileage, travel fees, materials? Is it a one-person act or is it a team? Their tech or space needs. Do they require special AV equipment? Do they need a special room set up? Do they need staff to assist with setting up their items? And their scheduling. Are they available on your preferred date or time or dates or times? I wanted to add background checks just because, our culture has changed and you just never know. Having a background check, especially for performers working with children, uh, definitely something to consider. And professional conduct. Are they reliable, punctual? Are they communicative when you are talking to them via email or on the phone? Another thing I wanted to also point out is a programming policy. Does the program that you're trying to book, does it fit your library's programming policy requirements? One example I wanted to show is the Kent District Library. They're in Michigan. They have a presenter expectations and policies document. And I got to tell you, this is well done. I really liked the wording in their document. And I have a copy of it right here, was when I was taking a peek at it. They have a cancellation policy. That's something to consider if you have a programming policy. Maybe you enter a cancellation policy where you state that the presenter or performer has to arrive at your library 30 minutes before the programming starts. That you could, let's see, making sure the language is that the presenter uses is acceptable for all audiences, making sure that jokes, stories are age appropriate and that they don't single out or marginalize a particular group. Um, this document also says, let me see, Kent District Library may cancel this agreement at least 30 days before the performance date due to non-receipt of performer's certificate of liability or a result of proven inability to host the performance due to force majeure. If rescheduling is not an option, there will be no obligation by either party for continuance or compensation for this agreement. So it's really spelling out what the cancellation policy is, what the expectations are. This is great wording, and this is a great example of a good policy to have for presenters and performers. So I would definitely take a peek at this. Some other best practices for recruiting presenters and performers. Bottom line, if you're new to youth librarianship, select performers or presenters with your community in mind. You know your teens, you're starting to know your kids, you're starting to know the families, you're starting to know the teens and people that are walking into your building. So really take the time to select performers or presenters with your community in mind, what they like, what are they asking for. Remember your library's policies. Does the presenter or performer match your library's vision, values, or programming policy? Better yet, does your library have a programming policy in place? That might be also something to consider when you talk with your director. And do your research. Ask for references. Library Talk, if you're on Library Talk, I see a lot of libraries asking for, hey, who's a great presenter for this? Who's a great presenter for that? Ask around, go on Library Talk, contact other libraries that hired them and get their feedback. Just ask, what did they like about the presenter? What did they dislike? And what should they expect? One thing I also want to add with this is when you're looking for presenters and performers, Look everywhere. And what do I mean by look everywhere? Look at different libraries. Go to different library events. If there's a library near you and you see a really cool performer or presenter that you want to look at, go to their library, go to that program, introduce yourself to the library staff and say, hey, I'm just here. I saw you have Dino Odell at your library and I just wanted to see what his performance is like. There's no shame in going to a different library to see that performer or presenter. So visit other libraries, visit to see what that performer or presenter is like. Other places you could look for performers or presenters, Comic Cons. I went to the Des Moines Comic Con. It was what, 2023, 2022, and I was just there with my husband, just having a good time, taking in all the Comic Con festivities. And that's where I met Drew Brockington, the author of Catstronauts. And I struck up a conversation with them and I said, hey, we've got Pop YS Con, this conference. Would you be interested? If I sent you some information, would you be interested in being a presenter? And that got the ball rolling, and him and Jason became the presenters for Pop YS Con. So going to book festivals, book cons, comic cons, youth conferences, library conferences. In Iowa, of course, they have the Performer Showcase, where Rick Brammer and the Youth Services Subdivision, they put together an array of different presenters and performers that librarians can go and see 15-minute snippets of their presentations, and you can book those presenters on the spot. So those are just some examples of where to look for presenters or performers as well. So next, we're going to talk about get it in writing, having some type of document in place so that way you as the library are protected and the presenter and performer are protected. Barbie is asking, will that slide be available of the Kent District Library policy? Yes, the slides will be available after the presentation. Thanks. So at my previous library where I worked at, when we went to go book a presenter or performer, they didn't call it a contract. They called it a program agreement. So you could call it a contract or you can call it a program agreement. But why should you have a contract or a program agreement? These are the reasons why. You are stating and setting the expectations between the library and the performer or the presenter. If you state in that document that you are here for this presentation and I expect you here at 10 a.m. for the performance at 10:30, and I need you to park in the west parking lot, I'm going to put that info in there. So that way I'm setting the expectation for that performer or presenter. If you want that performer or presenter to stay after the program for a meet and greet, put that info in the document. If you want them to make sure that they're using appropriate language, appropriate music and materials, everything needs to be stated in that document. So set the expectations and state them. So that way there is clear, concise wording for that performer or presenter. It also defines the payment terms. So you need to state on that document, is this program a paid program or an unpaid program? That way there's no confusion. It's stated there. So that way you have that down and the presenter performer that has that down. It shows the library as a professional organization. So having a document in place where you can offer that to a presenter or performer, it shows the library as professional and keeping things organized. It protects the library. Having a document where everything is stated out, it protects the library from liability, lawsuits, so forth. So having a document in place, it will protect the library. Having contracts or program agreements also shows consistency and fairness. So having that standard document, it's providing fairness. So that way every presenter or performer is treated fairly. And it's just good practice. It's good practice to have these documents in place and keeping them in a file where they're safe. Morgan, you're asking, are there resources for contract program agreements? There are templates. There are templates, and I'm more than happy to provide templates. And Joellen is asking, is the performance showcase recorded for viewing? Yes, they usually do record it. I don't know that they'll probably provide more information as Youth Services Subdivision starts preparing more about it. So I would check on Library Talk for more info, Joellen, because in the past, they have recorded it. So what should be included in your contract or your program agreement? These are all the things: the date of the event, the time of the event, name of your presenter, the title of the event, the arrival time, the departure time for the presenter, parking information, because they need to know if they're the Blank Park Zoo and they're coming to your library, where do they need to go with the animals? Do they need to go in the front entrance, the back entrance? They need to know all those things. They also need to know special instructions for setup. How should they set up? Equipment needed. Do they need a mic? Do they need a projector? Do they need a podium? Make sure you put the mileage information in there. If you're paying for mileage, make sure you state that information. Payment information. Again, is this a paid program or an unpaid program? And when to expect payment from the library. And request a W-9 form. W-9, each performer or presenter will need that for tax purposes. So make sure on that form you request a W-9 form for payment. Have a space for a signature for the presenter or performer. And also make sure you put the library employee's name and contact info. Let's say you hire the Grout Museum, I believe they're out of Waterloo. You hire the Grout Museum to come to your library and they're running late. Who do they call? Do they call the main number? Do they call your number? And make sure you state that. Make sure you state your name and state your contact info so they can get a hold of you right away in case they are going to be late. Once you have that form sent to the presenter, sign it, have them sign it, have them return it to you, and email them a copy. Email them a copy of the signed agreement. So that way both of you guys have it, and that way everyone is on the same page. Other items to consider adding for a contract or a program agreement. And these are just some things you can throw in there. It's totally up to you. Requesting a presenter bio or a blurb to market your program. I've seen some program agreements where they've done that, where they say, hey, we would like to have a picture of you or a short little bio that we can add in the advertisement. So you can request that information. Book selling. If you host an author and they're planning to sell their books, maybe you have some info about book selling and how will that work between you and the library? Do they need to split the proceeds or so forth? Also, consider offering a cancellation clause as well. And this is an example of a paid program agreement. This is the Des Moines Public Library's paid program agreement. It is pretty thorough, but they have, again, the presenter, the title of their presentation, when it's going to be. They would write down what day, date, time, year, which location, because they have 6 branches. Special needs, if they need a podium, a microphone, projector screens, a limitation on audience, age, or size, video release. So if social media wanted to post something, they would have sign a video release, and then program contact info, and then this bottom bottom info was just for their business office, so for the payment information and such. But this just gives you an example of what a paid program agreement could look like. Um, Again, this is between you and your library director, of how you would like your template to be for your location. But this will give you some good ideas. Okay, we're going to move to the program checklist. So making sure you have all the bases covered. You've researched your how should I put this? You've researched all presenters and performers. You've narrowed it down. You've got your presenter in hand. You've got everything going, and you want to make sure everything is on the right track. So this is just a program checklist. This will also be included in the slides, so no worries. Um, so for booking and coordination, so roughly 2 to 4 months before your program, make sure you finalize your bookings. You sign contracts and agreements between you and your presenter or performer. You collect that W-9 form, so that way your city, if your city's paying for them, or your business office, making sure that they have that W-9 form. You add presentation dates to your internal calendars and your public calendars. Schedule staff or volunteers to assist at each event. So making sure you have that cushion, that amount of time, so that way you can make sure you have staff available if you have a big program, just to make sure everybody's on the same page. Reserve spaces and equipment, so your projectors, your microphones. Drafting publicity materials, so any flyers, social media posts, press releases. And you can send out marketing to newsletters, schools, and community boards. Roughly for program promotion, so in prep, so like 1 to 2 weeks before your program, confirm with each presenter when they're coming and their needs. You make sure you do this, because nothing says just tears when you have a room full of kids and that presenter's not there. So 1 to 2 weeks before your program, confirm with each presenter when they're coming and what they need. And if you can't get a hold of them by email, follow up. If they don't respond, follow up. Just to get everybody excited for the program, promote on social media. Promote the program on social media, in your library, on your local news, etc. If you're having a craft after your program, maybe you have some volunteers or teen volunteers do some craft prep and prep those materials. If you are taking pictures at the program, having a photo waiver available, printing those photo waivers, just so that way you can have those ready when they do a meet and greet with the performer or presenter. And I'm just looking at the chat real quick. Morgan from Hiawatha, she says, I ask all programmers to do a background check, yes, due to youth sports programming, best practices, and the overlap that libraries have in terms of community trust similar to schools. Absolutely. Thank you for sharing. And on the day of the program, make sure you test your equipment. If you have a singer coming in, you want to make sure that the mic is working, that your audio, if you have speakers, making sure that's all working. If you have a presenter or a performer, maybe have a bottled water or two, just so that way they have something to drink. Because let's face it, they're going to be talking or singing. You want to make sure that they're comfortable. And I would also make sure, if you have someone that's performing as a mascot, like in a costume character, have multiple bottled water available for them, because let's face it, those costumes are hot. They are hot and they're sticky and they're gross. And you want to make sure that they're hydrated as well. But the day of the program, make sure you share upcoming events with your attendees, so that way they can come back for more fun. Give the presenter payment after the presentation. I would not pay them before. Give you the presenter payment after their presentation. And record attendance numbers for your stats. The post-program follow-up, send a thank you. A thank you note or an email goes a long way. It really does. So make sure you send them a thank you note. You can evaluate the program, asking your staff how it went. Maybe you have some audience feedback forms to see what worked and what didn't. Um, if you took photos or have quotes, save those quotes or photos for your board reports or social media posts. And you can file that contract or program agreement in your files for future reference. So let me ask you, while I'm here, while I have this slide up, what you have a group of kids. You've got a whole room full of kids. You see that picture at the bottom of your screen? You got a whole room full of kids. You have your parents, your caregivers, your daycares. They're here to see the coolest performer presenter that you have booked. You're ready. They're waiting, and they don't show up. So let me ask you, what do you do if a performer or presenter is a no-show? Let me just in the chat, if you can, let me see, what do you do if your performer or presenter is a no-show? Tracy says she has a backup idea in mind to do with the crowd. Yes. Yes. Any other comments? We're going to talk about that too. Tap dance. Joanna says tap dance. Tap dance. Well, Colleen says our presenter was an hour late due to weather. Oh, yes, absolutely. Weather can be a factor. Yes. We did a craft, then watched a video. Awesome. Yes, that's a great backup. So I see a couple of different things. We got a backup idea and having a craft or watching a video. So what do you do if a performer or presenter is a no-show? Or worse, if they're unprepared? And let's face it, it is every librarian's worst nightmare. And it does happen. I'm not going to sit here and sugarcoat and say it doesn't happen, because yes, it does happen. So here are some round robin tips to alleviate that. First, first of all, don't freak out. Don't freak out. Don't or have a meltdown. Um, it is easy to do. And yes, there have been some instances where I felt like Homer Simpson, where I'm just like freaking out. But you don't want to do that, especially if you have a room full of kids and a room full of parents or caregivers. Um, don't freak out. Don't have a meltdown. We don't want them to lose trust or credibility in us. So don't freak out. Don't have a meltdown. Best practice, apologize to your patrons and be honest. They always say honesty is the best policy, and you need to be honest with them. Explain what happened and what is going to happen next. So let's say you had, I'm trying to think, absolute science. You had them booked for a science program, and you have your room full of kids and they don't show up. You called, you texted, and they are not showing up. I need everybody to just take a deep breath. I need you in that moment to take a deep breath, stay calm, and explain what is going to happen next. You could just say, hello, friends. Guess what? We have a situation where the absolute science, they cannot make it. So what we're going to do, we're going to pull out some Legos. We're going to pull out some activities. You guys are more than welcome to stay and play in our meeting room space. We apologize for the error, but we are more than happy to accommodate you in some play activities. So explain what happened and what is going to happen next. Stay calm, professional, and positive. Keep the mood upbeat. I know in your heart of hearts, it stinks. It stinks when something happens and they don't show up. But try to keep the mood upbeat, positive, professional, and stay calm. And use your back pocket programs. I'm calling them back pocket. Tracy Clare said she called it a backup idea. I call it back pocket programs. What is a back pocket program? It's a low prep, easy to use backup program or activity that you can use in case of an emergency. So we're going to look at a couple for each age group. So for toddlers, preschool age, let's say you have a storyteller come in for a story time, and guess what? You've got a room of 75 kids, and guess what? They don't show up. Presenter doesn't show up. Your back pocket, have a backup story time program. Have one put together, all ready to go in case a presenter or performer does not show up. So what is in this backup storytime program? I put together interactive, funny picture books or books that encourage audience participation. So at the bottom, I don't know, in this picture, I have 3 books. Dear Zoo, which is one of my favorite picture books because it has the little flaps and the kids can guess. The Seals on the Bus. I don't know if have you read that book? The Seals on the Bus go. Er, 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 The seals on the bus go. All through the town. So having some sing-song books where everyone is engaged, everyone is participating. That bottom book is Bark George, is one of my personal favorites. So have some interactive, funny picture books if you're working with the preschool age. For toddler, have those books where they encourage audience participation with the singing and dancing. Oversized books, picture books are great too, because they can really see the pictures, especially if you have a crowd. But what I did at my old job, I had books put together and I bundled them up with a rubber band. I had the CDs just in case for music, and I had an activity like some scarves or egg shakers or just to have for a music activity. And if you use music, you can use CDs or a music playlist. I use both. But with the music, think of songs that are interactive, like The Freeze or The Freeze Dance by the Kaboomers. Think Sticky Sticky Bubblegum by Miss Rachel or Carol Peterson. They sing zipper songs that have repetitive lyrics that the kids can just pick up and move to. So really keeping it interactive. Then you see the egg shakers. But the other thing I wanted to mention, with having a backup story time program, like I said, this was rubber band, and I just put it on a shelf so that way I could just grab it and go in case if a presenter couldn't make it. This is also helpful if you're sick. Because if you're sick and you're not well and no one's there to do the program, someone can fill in for you. Your library coworkers or your adult librarian or your library assistant, they can just take that program off the shelf and do the program for you. On the CD, this CD that I use, I wrote down tracks to use. I know that those 2 songs, the Listen and Move and the Freeze, this is by Greg and Steve. I know those 2 are crowd favorites because it gets the kids moving, it gets the kids to be interactive and have fun. And if you're curious, that is Greg and Steve, We All Live Together, Volume 2. I love that CD. I've used it, and I learned about it in Head Start. Great music. Some more back pocket ideas for toddlers and preschool age. Have toys. Bring your toys in the meeting room space and have an open play time. Have an open play time with the kiddos. So maybe you bring out the toy tunnel. Amazon, this one that's on your screen, Amazon has this play tunnel for $27. Super cute, super fun. You can get a toy tunnel, blocks, mega blocks, some puppets, some puzzles. Maybe you have a bubble machine. And just let the kids have an open play time where they can get those wiggles out before nap time and lunch. So that could be an option. If you love parachutes like I do, grab that parachute and play. You can lead the kids with the caregiver's help if they're able in parachute play activities. So maybe you're singing "Row, row, row your boat" and moving to the music, shaking the parachute fast and slow. Maybe you get a beach ball or a couple balls and just let them shake, shake, shake. The tiny URL on your screen, that will take you to the Amazon link for a parachute. Um, and let me see, the parachute, it'll tell you the exact amount, and I apologize. I thought I had that written in my notes, but that link will take you to the link for the 20-foot parachute for kids. It's pretty reasonable. Um, if all else fails, you can also set up a scavenger hunt because you know scavenger hunts are popular with kids. Have that redirect them to the kids' library and tell them to use the scavenger hunt and search for items in the library and they can get a small prize. Or set up a coloring page station. These are all great ideas for kiddos, for toddlers in preschool. Oops, did I skip one? I did, pardon me. So now we're going to focus on ideas for elementary ages. So we're thinking that kindergarten through fifth grade group. If you have a presenter that's a no-show, redirect them to the library to do the scavenger hunt. They love scavenger hunts. So redirect them to the kids' library to do that. Pull out Legos. Pull out Legos at the tables in the kids' area and have the kids and families build with Legos. Maybe you might have STEM activities. You might give them some paper to make paper airplanes. That's a fun activity, just having them make paper airplanes. Or can do building challenges with blocks and Legos. You can also pull out board or card games in the children's area and encourage families to play those activities. I wanted to address this because, I have to say, this webinar is very timely because I understand that the insect zoo had canceled April 27th a lot of library programs, either last month or last month. And it's so sad. It's devastating. I had the insect zoo at a couple libraries I worked at, and they did a fantastic job. And I know many librarians were scrambling to come up with an alternative activity or presenter or something to engage kids. If you're still looking for something to do in place of the insect zoo, maybe you could have a Build-A-Bug passive craft. I loved this idea and I used this activity when I had the insect zoo. When the meeting room got so full of people, because the meeting room could only fit 75 people comfortably, and if it just got kind of crazy for kids and it was just kind of rowdy, I would redirect them to the kids area, and I had this Build-A-Bug passive craft. I put out glue sticks, construction paper, scissors. I had a teen volunteer cut out small paper shapes of different shapes from construction paper, and I had some crayons and markers. But I did leave some paper set aside if I had older elementary age kids that wanted to cut their own shapes. But what you did was you had the kids cut out the shapes and they could glue the shapes of their choice onto a piece of construction paper to make a bug. And they could decorate it with eyes, legs, antennas, and so forth. And they could take their bug home and they could make as many Build-A-Bugs as they wanted. But this was super fun, super cute, very engaging. I had kids coming up to me, look at my insect, look at my butterfly. That could be something you could offer in place of the insect zoo coming to your library, just having a passive craft where they're doing this activity. The link is down below on your screen, but that could be something to consider. I also came up with some back pocket ideas for teens and tweens. If there's a teen program or a tween program where a presenter or performer doesn't make it, don't worry. You have some items in your back pocket. Pull out a craft activity. Maybe you pull out 3D pens for the teens. Duct tape crafts. I put the link to the Duck brand duct tape. That link has all different type of duct tape crafts for teens and tweens. You can pull out brush markers, drawing paper, and just let them draw and doodle. Maybe you grab some color pencils and let them draw whatever they want, or color. Shrinky dinks. You could use shrinky dinks and make some shrinky dink activities with them. Let them color and make their creation, then put it in the toaster oven and make a keychain or some type of decorative item with the shrinky dink. Air dry clay is great for this group. They love to make items with clay. Or you might have some coloring bookmarks. Pinterest has a lot of coloring bookmarks that you can use. You can also go on Canva and make bookmarks and print them out for the teens to color as well. To your right, there's some Oriental Trading fuzzy coloring mandala posters. I love Oriental Trading because they have these fuzzy coloring posters. I ordered a lot for kids and teens because they just love to color. And it was something cool that they could hang up in their home or locker or whatever. So consider maybe ordering some fuzzy coloring posters for teens to color or your tweens. You can also pull out some minute to win it activities. This is a cup stacking challenge that was at the STEM fair, and I loved these cups because they could just stack them really easily, and you can just stack them up, stack them down. You give them a minute to try to stack the tallest or the shortest, but you could pull out some minute to win it activities for teens as well. Pinterest has a ton of minute to win it activities for teens, tweens. So you can definitely look up some ideas off of Pinterest as well. And with teens and tweens, ask them what they want to do. It doesn't hurt to ask them. Ask your teens and go with the flow. They're not afraid to tell you what they want to do. They're not afraid to tell you, hey, I'd rather do this instead. Just ask them and just go with the flow. And Colleen says, yes, Legos and Magnetiles are lifesavers. Yes, absolutely. And my high schoolers love the fuzzy coloring posters. Absolutely. I also wanted to mention about being prepared for unprepared presenters. These items can make presenters unprepared. Sometimes they arrive late. Sometimes they get lost. There are emergencies, and yes, absolutely. We want to make sure that we are understanding if there's an emergency. Sometimes they forget their materials. I heard one story about a librarian who hired a company to come do a foam party with the kids, and they forgot their bubble machine, and they forgot their bubbles. So that librarian had to quickly ask the presenter how she could help, and she was able to grab some bubble solution and some other bubble stuff to have a bubble program at her library. But the reason why I mention this is because you might encounter a presenter who is unaware of the topic they are presenting on. Case in point, a library that I previously worked at, they have a gardening, all throughout May, they have whole gardening programs. So every Thursday in May, they have different presenters come and present a gardening tip or technique. And so an organization contacted the library and said, hey, I see that you're having a garden sessioning on these days in May. We'd like to be a part. Can we do this? And the librarian said, yes, no problem. We would love to have you here. Let's talk over the program logistics. And so she did. She talked over with the organization what she wanted, what their program would be like. It was an hour-long program. It was geared for adults. So she talked with the organization about what she wanted. She filled out a program agreement, because this was a free program, by the way. This was a free program. She didn't have to pay for anything. So she made sure the contract was signed between her and the organization. They both signed contracts without any problem. And so the day of the program, the librarian that scheduled this program was sick. Or excuse me, she wasn't sick. She had an appointment. And so the library assistant was filled in about the program. And so the library assistant ran the program for her. And when the presenter came to present the program, there were 18 adults in the room. The presenter got there and was told about the program, and they said, "Oh, I'm sorry, I don't know anything about that topic. I'm only here just to talk about this instead." It was a whole different subject. It was about pruning roses or flowers or something, and when it was supposed to be a different program that she was presenting on. So there were 18 people in this room. 18 people were mad. They were upset that this person was not prepared on the topic that was advertised in the advertisement. And the library assistant had to quickly come in and say, you know what, we're very sorry, this does not happen. If you would like, let's get you all into the library. I could help you find books on gardening and best books about gardening and weeding and so forth. And so that was how the library assistant handled it. She just said, she apologized, she was calm, she basically asked the presenter how they could help. They didn't really offer that much in terms of help. And so the library assistant took charge and had those 18 people come into the library proper, and she helped them find books about gardening and the topic that was supposed to be presented on. So if you have issues like that, where a presenter comes in and they're not aware of the topic that they're presenting on, be calm, ask the presenter how you can help, whether it's helping them set up their materials, locating things, or if they need something. And if they just don't have anything, that they're just clueless and they're like, oh my God, this is going to be a nightmare, that's when you execute your back pocket program. You apologize to your audience, explain what happened, and you set up that backup activity. So we're going to talk about really quickly after program best practices. So after the program is over, these are some things to consider doing. Document the no-show. Document it. You want to note the date, the time, what happened, all of that. You want to save all your correspondence for your records to make sure that you can explain this to your library director and the performer or presenter. You also want to review the presenter's contract agreement. Check the document. If there's cancellation, no-show clauses, all of that. You want to cover your bases and review that agreement. And don't be afraid to follow up with them. Follow up with the presenter, especially if they were a no-show. Follow up with them. Ask them what happened. And ask if you can reschedule. If it makes sense for you and for the presenter, see if you can reschedule that program. Especially if it was like Absolute Science's foam party, or if it's like the Blank Park Zoo's really cool animal program. Just follow up with them and ask if you can reschedule and work it out, if at all possible. And if you feel comfortable doing that, that is great. If you feel like, oh my gosh, this was awful, this person was not communicative in any way, shape, or form, then you don't have to rebook. You don't have to reschedule. And evaluate and learn from your program. Really look at what went well, what could have been improved. And I just want to share some quick parting reminders. Bottom line, communicate your expectations with presenters in writing. You need some type of document to make sure everybody knows what they're supposed to be doing and document those expectations. During programs where a presenter or performer is missing or they just don't show up, stay calm. Stay calm and keep your audience informed. You always want to make sure they're informed so that way a caregiver can make the best decision on what to do. You also, if you feel comfortable, if you and the presenter feel comfortable, see if you can reschedule, if at all possible. And most importantly, plan for the unexpected. It is better to over-prepare than under-prepare. And just remember, what's in your back pocket? What is in your back pocket that you can pull out in case of an emergency if a performer or presenter is a no-show or if they're late? And really quickly, since it is the month of May, we have some upcoming CE events. Don't forget, May 27th, that's the day after Memorial Day, we are going to have Check It Out. That is from 11 o'clock to 12 o'clock. You can register in Workday Learning. We'll also have Check It Out on Tuesday, June 24th from 11 to 12 o'clock. That's where I book talk 30 plus or more books in an hour. And I have to tell you, May's Check It Out is going to be lit. I've got so many books on this list. It is a doozy. I am excited for May's Check It Out. So definitely check out, imagine that. Check out May's Check It Out. You can register in Workday Learning. And don't forget, we have our All I Read summer virtual author visits. The registration is open. So Tuesday, June 17th, we'll have the adult All I Reads winner, Tim Johnston. He'll be talking about his book from 6:30 to 7:30. June 18th, we'll have the kids winner, Christina Wyman, who will discuss her book, Jawbreaker, 1 to 2 o'clock p.m. And June 25th, we'll have the teen author, Byron Graves, who will share about his book, Resball, from 3 o'clock to 4 o'clock p.m. This is a great program for kids, teens, and adults where they can sit and listen to the author talk about the writing process, how they got started. And the kid and teen webinars will be moderated by a teen. His name is Daniel, and he is a junior from Cedar Falls High School. So he'll be taking all your questions and asking them in real time to the authors. But you can register online on Zoom on the All Iowa Reads webpage. And that, with minutes to spare, that is all I have. Don't forget, Pop YS Live is taking a break. For those that are new, during the summer months of summer reading, Pop YS Live takes a break because we understand your time is limited. You are busy with summer reading programs, and I want to be respectful of that. So Pop YS Live will return in August for more youth service related fun. We are so excited for your summer reading programs. And if you would like for me to come visit, please send me an email. I would love to come visit your library this summer. I've been to 86 libraries in my almost 3 years. So I would love to come out to your library. If you're having a phone party, please let me know. So please let me know. I would love to come out this summer. And if you have any other questions, please let me know.
Great info, Janeé. Always fun and lots to learn and great information. I think we got all the questions. I don't think we missed anyone. The slides will be up there, and we shared the video from last year for the showcase. So just be on the lookout for those slides within your Workday account, and we will mark you guys all off for attendance. And if you have any other questions, reach out to Janeé or myself. And we just want to thank you guys again for coming and spending time with us this afternoon.